Manchester United in crisis. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, with today's video we are centering it around Manchester United, Erik ten Hag's Manchester United, as they have started the season off in not so convincing fashion. It's not been the best of starts, 5 games into the brand new season for Erik ten Hag of Manchester United. A season in which United were expected to kick on and continue their good start under their new manager. Like last season, they overachieved massively. This season, it's about either maintaining that at the very least or kicking on from that point even further. And despite a lot of money being spent in the summer, it hasn't quite panned out to the perfect start for Erik ten Hag or for Manchester United in a brand new chapter of England's top flight division. The Champions League is on the horizon and is going to start soon for the Red Devils. But obviously, having only taken 6 points from a possible 15 in their opening 5 games of the season, they're not looking in the best of shape or the best of form right now. And I think a lot of teams are going to be sensing blood whenever they face Manchester United going forward as of in the immediate future, as of right now. We're going to be talking about this Manchester United start to the season. We're going to be talking about the Glazers, the squad, the manager, everything else in between. But before we go any further and talking about all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and really greatly appreciated. And of course, I want you to get involved in the comment section as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video talking about Manchester United. Now, let me start off by saying that as a rival fan, I'm loving this. I'm loving this mini downfall. I'm loving the doom and gloom that's surrounding Manchester United at the minute. I'm finding it fun. I'm finding it entertaining. I am sat back with a big bucket of popcorn watching this seemingly comedy unfold right now. Watching it all fall apart for Manchester United on the football pitch. And in some cases as well, off the pitch. Not in all cases, of course, but in some cases off the pitch, it is entertaining to watch. The Jadon Sancho stuff, for example. But as I always say when I make these types of videos, I will always try and be fair, open and honest. I won't always try and be seeing it from the perspective of a rival fan. I'll always try and be neutral on this. I'll always try and be fair on these types of videos, because if it does seem like I've got like my bias glasses on or whatever it may be, doesn't really make for fair and interesting content, because any guy who is not a United fan and a rival can make these types of wild comments. So I'll always try and be fair, and I'll always try and back up what I'm saying and everything. But I will also say that I didn't put United to win yesterday. In my predictions video, I said that Brighton would win 3-1, and that's how it transpired. I actually got a result and a scoreline correct. But that's not to tell the whole story. I think for the opening 20 minutes, United did look decent. United started off strong, and you kind of expected that with them being the home team. Of course, United have built up this brilliant home form over the course of Erik ten Hag's reign. I think Brighton were the only side coincidentally to beat Manchester United at home last season, right at the beginning of the season. So Brighton may have United's number in that aspect, and Brighton may be a bit of an Achilles heel, a bit of a bogey team for Manchester United going forward. So it might just be a little bit of a case of that. But when you look back over the course of the season, only taking 6 points from a possible 15, 2 wins out of 5, 2 wins, 3 losses. It's been a very mediocre start, below average start for Manchester United. Like I say, for the game yesterday, United started the game off 20 minutes, they looked fine. And then as soon as Brighton got that opening goal, they collapsed. They allowed Brighton too much into the game. It was a very, like I say, Brighton, don't take anything away from Brighton. Brighton are an excellent excellent footballing side, and they scored all 3 of their goals yesterday. Well, a couple of them at least were well worked, excellent. That first goal in particular was very, very good. Danny Welbeck, former Manchester United player, of course, finishing off a good move by the Seagulls. And like I say, they're a perfect example of a beautifully well-run club, and something that I think a lot of teams can maybe take a leaf out of their book on, of how to run their club, not just in terms of their transfer business, but in terms of appointing managers, in terms of, you know, how they run their club for the fans and everything. Like, they are an exceptionally well-run club that keeps on going from strength to strength, and no matter how many times you think you can knock them back, they continue to work hard to come back stronger. You think about the amount of players that they've lost over the course of the past few years, the manager that they lost in Graham Potter last year, replacing him with De Zerbi. Beautifully well-run club, and like I said, I think a lot of teams can take a leaf out of their book on that, especially maybe even a certain club in the red half of Manchester. So take nothing away from Brighton. Fully deserved yesterday. A couple of good goals, good build-up play, but it was clear and it was obvious that United's mentality dropped. United's work rate dropped as soon as that first Brighton goal went in. And even though, and it was made even worse by the fact that they did manage to equalise, but the ball had gone out of play and therefore VAR ruled out the goal. That was another killer blow for United. It could have got back into the game, it could have made it different, but again, it's those margins that obviously are what makes football what it is. And in that particular game in general, I feel like it hurt United even more, and they got even more frustrated, they got even more annoyed, and then of course in the second half Brighton took complete control, and even though United did manage to get a goal back late on, very well taken goal, obviously it proved nothing more than to be a consolation. And it's left a lot of United fans angry. A lot of United fans are frustrated. And again, people are pointing fingers left, right and centre as who's to blame. Now, I personally think everybody is to blame. Everybody. Some more so than others, but everybody is to blame. The squad, their home form over the course of the past year has been brilliant. Maybe not so much the performances, but their home form has been brilliant in terms of getting results. May not have been playing exceptionally well in all of those games, but they managed to get the job done and they managed to get the 3 points when it mattered most. But their away form has been poor. And yeah, like I say, even though yesterday wasn't away from home, it does seem that Brighton do have United's number when it comes to playing away from home at Old Trafford against United in that aspect. But again, why is it different away than it is at home? You can look at also the unity. Is the unity in that team there? Is the cohesion in that team there? And part of it relies on the manager, of course it does. But again, it's about the mentality. It's about whether or not they're all on the same wavelength. They're all on the same page. When they went a goal or two down yesterday, was there unity on that pitch? I don't think they all were united. I don't think all of United were united. I don't think all of them are behind the manager. I don't think all of them, especially when you consider that all of the stuff that's been going on these past couple of weeks across the international break that has been left to fester in regards to the Antony situation, for example, or the Jadon Sancho situation. And this kind of leads me on to my point about the manager. He's suffered with so much during his time at United. He's inherited so many issues at United, and I kind of feel sorry for him in certain ways. He's inherited players that have got a weak mentality. He's inherited players that don't want to leave the club despite the fact that they're not in his plans and they don't have really a future at the club. He's inherited a team that has got issues right to the very core, including fan base issues, including squad issues, coaches, Glazers, the people in power. He's inherited these issues, but that's not to say he's entirely blameless. That's not to say he's entirely blameless. Like, don't get me wrong. What happens on the pitch in terms of decision making, especially in the final third yesterday, is not on him. That's on the likes of Rashford. I would say Højlund, but he's only just come into this side and he's young, so you can maybe give him a bit of a free pass, and he did look decent yesterday. Subbing him off was an issue, which again falls on the manager. Decision making in the final third is not on him. Sticking the ball in the back of the net is not on him. Tracking midfield runners is not on him. You know, keeping the ball out the back of the net. Poppadom hands, Onana not saving that third goal. That's not on him. That is on the players. That is on their mentality. That is on their willingness to commit and everything along those lines. The bare basics of what you expect from a footballer. I get that. But for him, certain team selections, certain tactics, certain substitutions, like I briefly mentioned, subbing off Højlund yesterday. I know that he claims he wasn't exactly match fit to play the full 90 minutes, but that did not go down too well at the time at Old Trafford, and there were boos ringing out around the ground, and maybe that was the first sign of United fans really starting to lose their patience with the manager if he keeps on making these types of decisions. He has suffered with a lot, and I do feel sorry for him, as I previously mentioned, but when you're making decisions like that, it's not necessarily helping yourself. It's not necessarily helping the situation. It's not necessarily helping in any way, shape or form what you're trying to achieve and how you're trying to bring the fan base together. In fact, it's making more of a division. And whilst people may point their finger at the squad, whilst people may point their finger at the manager, they need to take their share of the blame. But the majority of the blame, again, falls on the ownership. It's the common denominator that has seen United fall from grace this past decade, or over the course of this past decade. They have been the common denominator. Their strange and different managerial appointments. David Moyes is different to Jose Mourinho, who is different to Louis van Gaal, who is different to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who is different to Erik ten Hag, and who is different to Ralf Rangnick, and all of these appointments are strange and different. And again, it's like they have no idea how to run a football club. And even when they did, and even when they actually got on board with the fans in terms of making a managerial appointment in Erik ten Hag, which a lot of people were crying out for, they've left the club to rot for too long. So it makes it pointless, because they've left the club to rot for too long. They've not given him their full backing. They've not pushed the boat out enough for him. They've not pulled their finger out enough for him in terms of changing the infrastructure, changing the training ground, changing the stadium, changing the squad, and everything else that goes along with making this club better again in terms of those particular aspects. They've not done enough. And people will say, yeah, but he spent this much and that much. Yeah, but the club was left to rot for that long that it needs a lot more doing than that. Like, even I can see that from the outside looking in. It needed that redevelopment in all those kinds of areas. It needed a lot of money to be thrown around at it. And maybe some of that money hasn't been well spent. Again, you can throw money at it, but is that money well spent? Was spending 60 million on Mason Mount worth it? I said at the time, it seems like they overpaid, and it seems like the only reason why Mount went to United in the end was because United were the only ones that were going to be prepared to spend the 60 million needed to bring him from Stamford Bridge to Old Trafford. Poor decision making. poor choices of putting people in power. The people in power, not good enough. Not football people. Not backing Ten Hag when he needs it most. And if you're sitting there today as a United fan going, Erik Ten Hag needs to be given the sack, I don't know what you're expecting, because any manager that comes in may have a decent first season. But we've seen this time and time again. We've seen good seasons happen at United over the course of the past decade. We saw Mourinho have a good season. We saw Van Gaal have a decent season. We saw Ole have a decent season. But there was no sustainability beyond that point. So if you're there saying Ten Hag needs to be sacked, bring in a Zidane, bring in a Hansi Flick, go and test Tottenham's resolve and get Ange Postecoglou, because a big team's eventually going to come in for him anyway, it seems, if he continues to be as good as what he started at Spurs. It's going to be the same rinse and repeat situation again. You may have a decent season from this point. You may win a cup. You may win an FA Cup. You may win a Carabao Cup. That team has certainly got the makings of being a good cup side. But it's not sustainable. In a league, not sustainable. Silverware-wise, not fully sustainable. And the common denominator is the Glazers, is the ownership. And nothing is going to change. You'll be stuck in this loop. You'll be stuck in this vicious cycle of get rid of the manager, bring in a new one, start the season off well, start to fall apart, get rid of the manager, all the way around, constantly on this weird and horrible and insanity-driven merry-go-round that is Manchester United. Like I say, this club is, I wouldn't say seemingly in crisis because of the start to the season that they've had. I know they've had a very tough start. You know, Tottenham, when there's no pressure on Tottenham can be extremely dangerous opposition. And Postecoglou, to be fair to him, has started off his season very well. Arsenal obviously are going for the title, and away from home. United were away from home, so it's always going to be tough to face them at the Emirates. And of course, Brighton played some excellent football, and like I say, were the Achilles heel of Manchester United last season. So that's continued obviously into this season as well so far. So it has been tough. Picking up 3 points against Wolves, the performance wasn't great, but they managed to get the job done. Again, against Nottingham Forest, I think they got fortunate that it was against Forest, because I think if anybody went 2-0 up in the opening 5 minutes, they should be really holding on for at least a point. But I think they were fortunate that they come up against a Forest side who were poor away from home and obviously had defensive issues aplenty in that game. United were pretty good in that game, created a lot of chances, they got the job done. But again, it was a bit of a scare when they went 2-0 down in the opening 5 minutes. There's just issues at that club, and one major issue in particular. Like, you can look at Ten Hag and you can look at his decision making. Fine. You can look at the squad and you can look at their mentality and their decision making and look where it stems from. Maybe the manager. You can maybe group them together. But the common denominator over the course, over the past 10 years, the Glazers. And nothing at United is going to change whilst they are there. And if I am to be getting my kind of rival fans' point of view on it, Glazers in forever. Glazers in. Simple as that, because with them in power, with them at the top of the club, United are not going to be a worthwhile, long-term, sustainable threat to anything. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Manchester United, the Glazers, the manager, the players, the fans, whatever you want to call it? That will make for great and interesting reading down below in the comment section. What do you make of all of those? I'm sure we have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for great and interesting reading down there. So do get involved in the comment section. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things always incredibly greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. I will see you all again soon. in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Have a good day. See you soon. Take care.